Hey y'all, Crazy Train here bringing you a brand new Call of Duty Black Ops 3 video. What I've got for you today are my top 5 tips for improving in Black Ops 3. So every year, Activision comes out with a brand new Call of Duty, and it's always a little bit different than the Call of Duties before it, right? Even though Black Ops 3 is very similar to Black Ops 2, it's really kind of a mishmash of a bunch of games. I would say it's, I don't know, probably 50% Black Ops 2, maybe 10% of Titanfall with the wall running. You've got another, 25% of it is Advanced Warfare with the double jump and the boosting and kind of the look and feel. And then that last 15% is your Destiny, where you've got these character specialties where you can ground pound, you can shoot specialized arrows, things like that, right? So it's kind of a mishmash. And because of that, I want to give you guys some tips that I think are going to help you improve so that you can do better in the game with all these different changes and carry over some of the things that you learned from previous Call of Duties and really make them all work here in Black Ops 3. So without further ado, let's jump into it. My first tip is to learn the maps. Now, this may sound like a given, but ultimately it's crucial in doing well in Black Ops 3 or really any new Call of Duty, right? Because if you know your environment, if you know where you're going to be fighting, if you know where the enemy's going to be, if you know all the hiding spots, all the head glitch spots, if you know the best way to flank, the best wall running areas, all of that, the more you know, the better prepared you are to anticipate what your enemy's going to do and to do things that are going to put you in the best position against them. Now, as far as learning the maps, ultimately, it's going to take just a lot of playing and a lot of practice to get there. I would recommend trying a lot of different game modes because I think people play a little bit differently depending on the game mode. Also, it gives you a chance to learn all the different spawn points, right? Because as you're running around a map, you want to be paying attention to where the enemy is spawning so that you can find them and take them down, right? You don't want to be running in the direction of your team the whole time. You'll never get any kills and you won't be any good to your team. You want to know where the enemy is going to be. Now, in that regard, when it comes to the maps, one of the recommendations I give is to stay to the outside of the map as you're playing. Because if you know where all the best places are on the outside to hide, to flank, you'll be better prepared to take down the enemy. Additionally, when you're going on the outside of the map, you've got a wall to one side. So rather than having to try and pay attention to 360 degrees around you, you only have to do 180 degrees. So as you're running through, you need to look forward, backward, and to one side, and that's a whole lot easier than trying to pay attention to everything around you, right? Now, when you're learning the maps, you can figure out some of the best places to stop and wait, to flank, what areas are going to be best to use your kill streaks, right? And you'll also learn where enemies like to come in so that you can move quickly to whichever spot you want to be at to take the net, especially when it comes to like the beginning of a match. You want to be able to jump to a spot really quickly, take out a couple of enemies. You want to be able to anticipate where they're going to come. As you can see in this gameplay, I anticipated a lot of what my enemy was going to do, so I was able to go on like a 3 or 4 kill streak of often the same person, just because they always came after me at the same time, or rather in the same place, and I was able to hide in a slightly different area, wait for them, and take them down each time, right? And that can happen a lot for you, but only if you know the maps, only if you know the routes that people are going to take, and the best places that you can hide in order to take them down. Now, one of the things that you can do when you're learning the maps is to open up a private match and just run around by yourself and kind of figure out the layout of the map, learn what the lanes are, see where all the various tunnels and things are so that you can learn exactly where people like to run. And then you're better prepared when you actually play the game to anticipate where the enemy is going to go and where you need to go to beat them. Next up is to find the weapons and the setup that work best for you. Now, the nice thing about Call of Duty is you've got a whole range of weapons, of specialists, of gear, of perks, of kill streaks, everything, right? So that you can find exactly what works for you. I most often play with an SMG because I like to play pretty close quarters. I like to stick indoors when I can, and I like to have close gun battles. Also, anytime I've tried to use the assault rifles, I usually end up losing gun battles because although they're powerful, they don't shoot quite as quickly, and I don't have the fastest reflexes, so I stick with the SMGs. Also, I really like the low kill streaks, and that's just because I don't often get really high kill streaks going. A lot of times I'll get 2, 3, maybe 4 kills before I die, and so when I'm playing games like Domination, it helps to have a low kill streak set up so that I can cap a flag or two, get a couple of kills, and then I can start hitting those kill streaks and get a nice little round of kill streaks going. If I set too high of kill streaks, often what happens is I don't even get the first one, or I don't even get close, and then I just never get my kill streaks. And so you want to find the right setup for you. Now, one thing I will say is sometimes it stinks to think, man, well, I'll never get to play with the large kill streaks, right? Well, as you get better, you'll be able to use those large kill streaks. Additionally, if you've got some friends that you can play with, have them run some of the low kill streaks like the UAV, the counter UAV, so that you can use those kill streaks when they put them up, and then you can attach higher kill streaks so you're not having to spend all your effort on a low kill streak like a UAV, but you're still getting the benefit of it when somebody else puts it up, and then you can go after those higher kill streaks. Another tip is to, as you're trying to find the right setup for you, go play against bots, right? Because one of the cool things about Call of Duty is it lets you play private matches by yourself or with your friends against bots. And those bots can be really easy or they can be super hard. I recommend that you set them at probably normal or regular difficulty, right? Because that'll match, I think, the way most people play. If you want a real challenge, you can set them higher, and then as you do better against the higher difficulty bots, you'll do better against players. But maybe just start out regular, or maybe even recruit, right? Start them out easy. And try out a bunch of different setups. Try out different guns, different perks, and find what works best for you. Now, I'll warn you, don't go run and gun crazy just because you're playing against bots. You actually want to practice what you're doing, right? Because practice makes perfect, and the better you do in the private matches against bots, the better you do against humans, as long as you're working on improving your skill. That way, you're not killing your KD trying to figure out the setup that works best for you. Also, something I do and something I would recommend is if you're like me and you don't often get to use the big kill streaks in the game, multiplayer against other people, give those a try. And against some like recruit bots, just go nuts, go ham on them, right? And get a chance to try those out. Hopefully down the road you'll get a chance to actually use them against people, but for the time being, at least you can try them out, right? And that's something I'll do sometimes when I get frustrated. If I don't ever get my high kill streaks when I'm playing against people, I'll just jump in, play against a bunch of bots, just wipe the floor with them, go on like a crazy 200-1 KD kill streak, feel good about myself for beating a bunch of really crappy bots, and then I'll jump back into multiplayer and get my butt kicked. But that's okay, right? Because I get a chance to at least try them out, even if it's not in multiplayer. So if you're somebody who doesn't get a lot of high kill streaks, give that a try. It's kind of fun, gives you a chance to try it out, and hopefully over time you'll get better and be able to use them against real opponents. Now my next tip is to find the play style that works best for you. Now when I watch a lot of YouTubers, a lot of times I see that they like to be really quick. They run around really fast everywhere, they rush everywhere, right? They're finding a lot of enemies quickly, they're surprising them. And every time I try that, I usually go super negative with my KD, and that's because I don't think I have the reflexes or the skill to be able to rush like that, so I often play pretty defensive, and that works for me. When I play defensive, when I play a little bit methodically, I'm able to do much better than just run and gun, right? But again, that may not work for everybody. So what you need to do is you need to try different play styles and not just try them for one game and decide against it. Try different play styles for a while. If you find something that works for you, stick with that. If you see that, man, it's not working for me at all, try something different. And your play style may differ by map or by whatever game you're playing, right? You may play very differently with Team Deathmatch than you do with Domination or Free-for-All, right? And that's just because the nature of the game is different. So you want to find the play style that's going to work best for you in a given game mode, as well as a map, right? If you've got a really small map with a lot of indoors, you're going to play a little bit differently than a big map that is a lot of outdoors, where people are going to be sniping and camping a lot, right? Versus indoors, where you're going to get a lot of people running around really quickly. And once you find the play style that you really like, that works best for you, hone your skills in that play style, right? Really get as good as you can at it, because that's what's going to help you to do really well consistently going forward. All right, tip number 4. Once you know the maps, you've got the play style down that you like, and you've got the setup that you want, now it's time to hone your aim. When it comes to Call of Duty, the way that things work, because they're still using the original Quake engine, and because the hit detection is a little bit off, pretty much the first person to get a bullet or two into the enemy is the one who's going to win the gunfight, almost every time, and almost without fail. So, you want to be able to quickly find your target and start shooting. And you want to be able to keep on target no matter what they're doing. If they're going up and down, sideways, if they're going prone, if they're drop shotting you, if they're trying to jump in the air, if they're trying to jump behind cover, you want to be able to stay on target and take them down, not give them a chance to get you. And ultimately, this comes down to, like almost anything else, practice, right? You've got to practice. And again, like I talked about before, if you want to practice against bots, that's a great way to do it so that you can improve without having to worry about killing your KD, right? So go out and practice as much as you can. Now, I know a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers will talk about sensitivity, right? The aim sensitivity. And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, you should have a high aim sensitivity, and then they kind of leave it at that. Well, I don't want to recommend a particular aim sensitivity number, but I do want to recommend that you slowly work on increasing your sensitivity. And the reason for that is the higher the sensitivity, the quicker that you'll be able to move and lock onto your target. However, if you pick a sensitivity that's too high, you're going to overshoot your target when you try and lock onto them, and you're not going to do any good and you're going to get killed, right? So, here's what I recommend. Start with a sensitivity that feels good and that you can play with and get good at it, right? If that's a 3, if that's a 4, if that's a 5, whatever it is, start there and play that way. Once you've got it figured out, move up one sensitivity and then hone that, right? Because you want to be able to slowly increase that aim sensitivity. Now, I will say, don't expect this all to happen in one night. Okay, don't go set your sensitivity to 3, the next game make it a 4, next game make it a 5, and so on until you're at like a 12, right? Because that's not going to do you any good. That's too quick. You are trying to move too fast for your own good. The big thing about this is you've got to practice with it, you got to get it figured out, you got to get comfortable with it. So, find the sensitivity that works. When you're comfortable, move up to the next sensitivity. Now, don't expect to necessarily go to the highest possible sensitivity. You're going to get to a point where you find the perfect sensitivity for you, that you are able to move around quickly, snap your aim quickly, and win gunfights, and not have to worry about going any higher. Right now, I'm sitting at, I think, about a 5 sensitivity. When I was playing Advanced Warfare, I think I was a 7 or an 8. And now that I'm in Black Ops 3, I'm trying to get it figured out a little bit, so I am playing with a slightly lower sensitivity, and that'll probably go up incrementally over time as I get comfortable with it. Now, the one last thing I'll say when it comes to aim, and I know that a few people have talked about this, and that is to use the KontrolFreeks for your controller. Now, I'm not getting paid to say that. I'm just somebody who uses it and who finds a lot of benefit in it, and so I recommend it for others. For those who don't know, the KontrolFreeks are these little stands that you clip onto your controller joysticks that increase the height a little bit, so when you are moving your stick, you can move further without your character having to turn as quickly. I don't know if that makes any sense, but ultimately it helps you to hone a little bit, be able to increase the sensitivity without like spinning around in circles really fast. So if you haven't tried KontrolFreeks, I definitely recommend that you do so. They're not too expensive. You can get them online or you can get them at GameStop, and definitely give those a try and maybe find the setup and the ones that work best for you. They have a lot of different options, so If you don't already, definitely give those a try. Tip number 5 is to watch other people play. Now, obviously, this is most easily done on YouTube, unless you have a friend or a family member who's really good at Call of Duty and they can teach you. But for most of us, we can go over to YouTube and we can watch a lot of different people play really well and learn from what they're doing. Now, I understand that this kind of sounds silly, but it can be really beneficial if you're paying attention and focusing on what they're doing well and how you can emulate it. This is something that I have done for pretty much the entire time that I've played Call of Duty. So ever since Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, when I used to watch YouTube videos to see what people were doing well so that I could try and get better. Now, I understand that YouTubers are only going to put up their best gameplays, right? They're not always getting these amazing kill streaks, these amazing KDs, right? I love watching Ali. He has tons of games where he's got 30 plus KD, but when he shows you his average KD, it's like a 5 or 6, which is still pretty stellar, but obviously that means he's got a lot of games that he's playing that he's not rocking it like he does in most of his videos. But that's okay, and I don't fault YouTubers for doing that. But it's important for us to remember, as we're watching them, that they're not perfect either. That they have crappy games, that they probably rage quit, right? So if we have crappy games, no big deal. We're all trying to get better together. But the point is, find some YouTubers that you like, that have a play style that you like, maybe use a similar setup to what you use, and pay attention to how they play and try and learn from them. Take what you learn and go practice it. And now for my bonus tip. And I think this is one of the most important tips that I can offer to anybody who wants to get better at any Call of Duty or any game, really. And that is, be patient. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes dedication to improve at these types of games. If it was easy to get better, everybody would be amazing, right? But that's just not the case. Most people are average, right? You look around, you're going to see a lot of people who are sporting 0.9 KD, 1.5 KD, right? You don't have a lot of people who are hitting 3, 4, and 5 KDs on average. Now, when I played Black Ops 2, I started off with about a 1 KD, and I was stuck there forever. And I decided I wanted to be better, so I started implementing a lot of these things that I'm talking about. I got to know the maps. I studied them online. I ran around maps by myself. I really paid attention to how YouTubers were playing, right? I found the setup that I liked. I found the perks and the kill streaks that I liked. And once I had figured out what I liked, I just practiced my butt off. And over time, I was able to improve enough that my average KD moved up to a 3. And I was really happy with that. In fact, I've set that as my goal for Black Ops 3. And I think right now in like Domination, I'm sitting at like a 1.6 or something. So I've got a little ways to go. But that's okay, because I'm going to be patient. And, you know, it can be tempting to want to like rage quit and get frustrated and mad if you're not doing as well as you want, especially after you watch all these tips and you're like, man, I'm going to go do it right now, right? But you got to be patient. You got to recognize it takes practice and it takes time. But if you're willing to put in the work and be diligent, you will see that success come. You will see yourself get better. And that's what I'm hoping, right? For those of you who are watching and who are keeping up with my videos, I'm hoping to be able to bring you better and better gameplays as I do my best to get better. So let's do this together. Let's grow together. Let's build together. Let's get better together, all right? If you guys have any recommendations that I haven't talked about here, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with others, and I'll see you guys in the next video.